All righty, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to another live stream Saturday edition with your host Parham. Really grateful to be here with you guys for another, hopefully, nice session of personal development, how you can go from where you are in your life to where you want to be. For those of you who are watching this for the first time, I want to say welcome. We have a really nice community here. We go live on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube all at the same time. So however you may be listening, wherever you may be listening, I hope you find some value out of this. So quick things about myself. So my name is Parham. I got a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. I'm a licensed advanced addictions counselor. I teach community college classes at a local community college called Saddleback out here in Southern California. I am a high school basketball coach, been doing it for 15 years. An avid pickleball enthusiast, training and playing pickleball way more than I'd like to admit. And but most importantly, I am a human being that believes in one thing and one thing only. And I believe in the possibility of human transformation. I believe that all human beings, including this person right here, sitting in front of you, has the ability to transform who we are, what we do, how we live our lives, the impact that we have on this world at any given moment that you choose to. My hope is that moment is right now. My hope is that moment's right now. And this is interactive, so you can see from YouTube, like Bita said, good morning. I could put the comment up. Ryan from Facebook said, what's up? So if you have questions, if you want to dig deeper, if you just want to say what's up, you always can. And today's talk is, I think it's going to be an interesting one. And here's the reason why. Because in this country and in most of the world, there's one thing that human beings love. And they love rooting for the underdog. They love a good comeback story. When someone falls down on the ground and it seems like their entire world is shattered, they find the grit, the resiliency, the tenacity to get back up, to keep moving forward, and to come back from the fall. You know, I'm a big believer in a few things, and one of them is this. After every breakdown, there is an opportunity for a breakthrough. So if you're experiencing breakdowns in your life, something went wrong, something is going wrong, there's an opportunity in that experience for a breakthrough, for a new way of living, for a new way of being, for a new way of experiencing this thing we call life. And I also believe, as the great Tupac Shakur said, after every dark night, there is a bright day. You know, and some of you might be going through some dark times right now. I've been there myself. I know what it's like. But as you continue to move forward and just have faith that the darkness starts to fade away and it gets replaced with something called light. Sometimes we need other people to show us that light. But things do get better if we believe they will. There we go. We got an underdog right here in the house. Jerry Prim, Julian Prim, man of wisdom. He was an underdog in life. Probably still is an underdog in life. And if I had to bet, I would bet on that person right there. Mom and Dad, thank you for the love and support. So the talk today is called Turning Setbacks into Comebacks. And what we're going to do is we're going to identify and discuss 12 different components that are needed for you to go from a setback in your life, which you probably either have experienced, are experiencing, or trust me, will experience in life, how you can go from that to having a comeback, being the underdog, being the person that's down on their back, out of their luck, and they get up and they're victorious in this game of life. How can we go there? Well, let's find out. So number one, when making a setback into a comeback, you must acknowledge the setback. You must acknowledge the setback. See, sometimes we want to say it's not a big deal. Oh, it was because of X, Y, and Z that happened. I'm not even going to think about it. See, if you don't acknowledge that there's a problem in the first place, if you don't acknowledge that you had a setback, that you took 2 steps forward, but you took 3 steps back, if you don't acknowledge that, if you don't own that, if you don't say, you know what, this is what happened, then you're never going to be able to move from it. It's like getting knocked down on the ground and saying, I never got knocked down. Bro, you're on the ground. The little Tweety birds, like the cartoon, are spinning around your head. You got a concussion. What do you mean you're not knocked down? I didn't get knocked down. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging the fact that we had a setback. You want to know why? I'm going to tell you the secret answer right now. Because you're a human being. It's who we are. It's what we do. It's how we go from point A to point B. We have setbacks. So why can some people have such a hard time not acknowledging it? Because in that moment that you realize that I am a human being, that I am capable of having setbacks, you also practice a little compassion to yourself. Once you acknowledge that it happened, let's go to the next step. But you can't go to the next step without acknowledging that it happened. Okay, I really need you to internalize that message. Good morning, Jim. Jim, if you missed the first part, we're talking about how to make setbacks in life and how to go from those setbacks to something we call comebacks, because America loves the underdog. So the next one we have is number 2. When you're trying to go from your setbacks and turning them into comebacks, you got to face reality. All right, here's what I mean by that. In life, you are free to do anything you want to do. We have free choice. However, we, you, me, are not free of the consequences of those choices. If you want to go wherever you want to go, do whatever you want to do, eat whatever you want to eat, spend whatever you want to spend, sleep however you want to sleep, you are free to. But you're not free from the consequences of those choices. So when there is a setback, it's typically because something happened in our environment, circumstances, or something that we did, and then there are some consequences to it. Those who are able to face the consequences, to face them, to look those consequences in the eyes and say, this is where I am currently. I'm not going to back away. I'm not going to run away. I'm going to stare it right in the eyes and I'm going to face my reality. Those are the people that are able to turn the setback into a comeback. But you know what some people want to do? They see the consequences like, oh, I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it. I want to put my head underneath the blanket. I want to be a little turtle and put my head in the shell, and hopefully it's going to go away. Try that strategy and see how it works. You got to face it, because remember, if you did an action and now it has some adverse consequences that you do not like, who was the one that took the action? If you're not going to take that into consideration, life is going to be tough. And by the way, we always talk about consequences coming as a result of negative actions. Positive actions also have positive consequences. When you do good things happen. You're free to take good choices, and good choices respond accordingly. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, there you go. You can do whatever you want as long as you're willing to pay the consequences of your actions. So, and it's true. And we say this to people. And Jim, for those of you who don't know, Jim's also a pretty, I'll call him an expert counselor, a lot of expertise, a lot of experience, a lot of wisdom, a lot of years in the field. And we say this all the time. We get people in groups and we get people in counseling and we get people in the community, and we're like, hey man, like, I'm not going to get in your way. You're a grown ass person. If you want to do whatever you want to do, feel free to. However, before doing it, just make an agreement with yourself that whatever consequences come with it, you're going to face them. That's all. And some people say, okay, and they do it anyways. And some people say, you're right. I played the tape forward and it's just not worth it. So can't get in the way of people doing anything in life. The next one we have is to take responsibility. So once the consequences of your actions have surfaced and appeared, can you take responsibility for them? Some people say, some wise people say, much wiser than me, that taking responsibility is the highest form of human maturity. So why is it so rare? Because it's easier to shift off and to push off and to blame others, people, circumstances, situations for reasons why we're not doing the things we have to do in life. God, that's so easy. If it wasn't for then I would be happy. If so-and-so didn't do then I would be in a different situation. If only the XYZ saw me the way that I actually am, then I have that promotion. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes those things might be right, but that's a very dangerous way to think when dealing with life. In everything we do in life, we have a part. there are a few people, there are a few human beings, a protected class that I call children, elderly. And it's not just me, it's ethics, it's law, man. Victims right there. You know, how the hell do you tell a child that's being abused that they had a part in the fact that they're 10 years old and they can't leave their house? You can't say that shit, and nor do I want you to ever say that, because those are actually victims. You know, those people can put the blame on somebody else. But in adulthood, you know, in adulthood, and by the way, even if you were that child in adulthood, even though that wasn't your fault, guess who's responsible for healing from it? You. Man, screw that person that did whatever they did, harmed you the way they did. You'll screw that person. But now you're an adult, and now your own relationships are getting jeopardized. Your future is getting jeopardized. Your health is getting jeopardized. At some point, you got to come rescue you. You got to come take care of you. You got to be there for you. You got to love on you. You got to take responsibility for your healing process. And anytime you have a setback in life, regardless of who did what, take responsibility for your comeback. Take responsibility for your comeback. There's a nice little quote. Taking responsibility is accountability for your actions without blaming another form of acceptance. Nice. Responsibility was my own way of growing up. Sometimes we got to grow up, don't we, Jim? I guess we're learning that responsibility could be a way to do it. And Jess, hello. I got your text. You're going to see Dr. B. I'm happy for you. Go enjoy that visit. The next one we have is you got to be able to shift your perspective. So a setback gives us an opportunity to view a situation. Some people view a setback as, oh my God, I'm doomed. Look what happened. I'm never going to succeed. And some people say, what am I going to learn from this? How am I going to grow from this? How am I going to evolve from this? See, everything in life gives us an opportunity to choose perspective. Some setbacks, you know, it's like your perspective is everything. I know that sounds cliche, but it's everything, because some people, for example, look at a setback of something happened to them at work, or something happened in their health, or something happened and they say, oh my God, it's over. Oh, other people say, man, what can I do to make this one of the greatest lessons or gifts I've ever experienced in my freaking life? Power of attitude when you choose a perspective is so significant. And each week in this talk, so if you're new watching this for the first time, or you're watching this for the fourth year, and by the way, we're in year 4.5 right now, I say the same quote every single week because I love it. And it says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So sit down, write down all the setbacks you've experienced in life, past, present, ones you perceive you'll experience in the future. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. How can you view that experience in a different perspective? And if you only want to look at it in one way and be like right about that way, I want to let you know this, that you're choosing to add suffering to your life, because there is no one way to look at anything. So if you're just caught up on your own perspective and you say that's the only way it is, you're lying to yourself, and you're saying, you know what? Handcuff me. I want to suffer from this experience. Choose a perspective that empowers you. Choose a perspective that is lighter. Choose a perspective that allows you to move forward in your life, in your relationships, in your future, in your goals, in your dreams. Shift your damn perspective. What do we got here? Cool. Hey, you know what? We'll talk about this a little bit. We're talking about celebrating little victories, getting things taken care of little by little. I'm at the dentist right now. You're watching this at the dentist? Cool. Tell your dentist to log on and subscribe. I've been putting it off for a while. And good morning, Jadajan. So what are we doing here? We go to the next one, my friends, and we have something called focus on the bigger picture. And this is another play on perspective, right? But I'll tell you this, you know, as a community college teacher, I like saying that, professor. I once had a student say, Professor, I need to add this class, but the class was full. There's nothing I could do about it. You know, there's a certain number that you can get in. If someone drops, I can get them in. Nothing I could do about it. And he says, but Professor, you don't understand. I'm going to fall 4.5 months behind. And I was like, oh, cool. 4.5 months behind of what? He's like, behind my plan. I'm going to be a failure. I was like, whoa, this kid's got it coming in for him in life. Poor little kid, by the way. I mean, can you imagine the things we do to people to make them think that if they fall 4.5 months behind the master plan that their life is over? Oh my God, that's such sad conditioning. I mean, I didn't get my bachelor's till I was 29, my master's till I was 32, and I don't know. But I do remember that feeling of feeling behind though. So I told this kid, I'm like, hey, I need you to get a piece of paper. He's like, no, professor, I want to add your class. I said, no, get a piece of paper. So he got a piece of paper and he put 0. And I said, how many years do you think you're going to live? He said, I hope 100. I said, put 100 on that side. And now I said, how many months in every year? He's like, are you messing with me, professor? I was like, no, I'm not messing with you. How many months in every year? And he says 12. And I say, okay, I need you to draw 1,200 lines. He said, I'm not going to do that. I said, why not? I said, if you do it, I'll add you to the class. So the kid wrote down 1,200 lines. Imagine the size of this. And I said, now I want you to pick 4.5 months, 4.5 of those lines and circle them. And I had him look at this thing from a perspective. I said, do you even see the 4.5 months? He's like, no. So what do you feel like you're falling behind on, man? Look at the bigger picture. Look at the bigger picture. And yes, he did get added to the class, so don't worry. I'm not that mean. So the next one that we have here is you must process your emotions. I mean, every setback comes with a series of human emotions. Oftentimes, things like guilt, things like shame, things like frustration, sadness, anger. And who likes to experience those emotions? Not me. Well, let me just sit down and feel my guilt. Let me sit down and feel how ashamed I am. Let me sit down and feel how sad I am. Nobody wants to do that. We try to do anything and everything to not feel those things. We drown ourselves with substances. We do things to spike our dopamine. We go shop and we go eat and we go sleep and we watch countless hours of TV. We do everything we can not to feel those. But what's the title of this talk? How to go from a setback to a comeback. If that's what you're trying to do, you must feel those emotions. You have to feel them to heal them. Our society always tells us that some emotions are good and some emotions are bad. That's BS. All emotions are good. You can't have the good without the bad. This has been proven over the years of this thing called life, the yin and the yang. You can't have bitterness without sweetness. You can't have light without darkness. You can't have life without death. You can't have joy without sadness. You just can't. You got to feel those emotions so you can feel the opposite, the contrary ones. If you don't feel your sadness, you're never going to feel your joy. Have you ever experienced that before? You're supposed to be happy somewhere, but you can't be. You're supposed to feel excited, but you're not. Want to know why? It's because you suppress your emotions all the time. You don't allow yourself to feel. So please process your emotions. I mean, this always happens to athletes too. I told you I coach high school basketball. So let's just say we have an athlete that gets injured junior year, hurts his back, hurts his knee, and all of a sudden he's thinking to himself, oh my God, I can never play my senior year. Setback. He's got to process those emotions of sadness and just anger and frustration and resentment before he can start the physical therapy process. You got to think about that stuff. And then, you know what? Hopefully it's an epic comeback. We've seen it happen in sports. And there are studies that proves that athletes that have a positive mindset towards their comeback recover faster. And they don't get injured again. Because they just know it's a mindset thing. Seek support and analyze the setback. So sometimes in life, almost always in life, yeah, we all got them. They're called blind spots. There are things about yourself, things about your life, things about the way you engage and interact that you actually have 0 to no perspective on. You don't even see them. They're called blind spots, right? Even cars have them. You ever notice on the car, the little side window, there's a little blind spot area? The greatest golfers in the world, they got a swing coach to show them their blind spot. When it comes to setbacks, sometimes we have blind spots and we don't know what happened. So that's where you got to seek support. Whether it's a counselor, a therapist, a friend, a peer, a coach, you got to ask hey, what do you see? Be honest with me. Yeah, analyze that. Analyze the setback. See what's going on. Because there's a quote I also love that I don't share every week. I kind of blend it in there because it's a little too deep. And it says, the eyes cannot see what the mind does not know. So the eyes can't see what the mind doesn't know. There are things about yourself that you just don't know. And if you don't know, you don't know. Therefore, you can't see them. In which leads to the next topic here. But just remember that the reason I'm talking about it's important to seek support is to help you see the unseen. To see the unseen, the things that you can't see. And if you do so, hopefully, number 8, you're going to be able to start recognizing some patterns. Like if you're trying to go from a setback to a comeback, you got to recognize and realize and understand and internalize the patterns you have in your life. Because if it happened once, there's a chance it happened again. And I'm not one of those people that says if it happens a few times, it's happening forever. Because people change, people transform. People live different versions of themselves. You know, the once this, always that. I don't believe that. I really don't. I really don't. I've seen too many people transform in front of my eyes to ever believe something so simple and so dumb. However, if someone doesn't break their patterns, it will repeat itself. So, for example, you know, as a family therapist, someone comes to me and says, I don't know what it is. I keep meeting the wrong people. I keep meeting the wrong people. Every guy I meet, every girl I meet, they're the same way. They're controlling, they're abusive, they're angry, they have substance abuse problems, they have short fuses. I'm like, okay. So when you say everyone you've met, she's like, well, my first husband, the guy I dated after that, the guy, my next fiance, the person I'm dating right now, they all have the same situation. I start thinking, So it's common in all areas of your life with all the people you meet. Are all these people in the same? Do they all look the same? So like, no, they all have different names. They all look a little different. One's from the South, one's from the North, one's from the Midwest. I'm like, oh, okay. So they're from all over. So have you ever considered that potentially there's something within you that is attracting or accepting these human beings into your life? They say, no, you don't understand. Like, these people are hurting me. I say, I know. Screw those people. Shame on them. But the fact that you even allow this to come into your world, there's a pattern there that exists. And sometimes they say, no, you don't understand. Or sometimes they say, you know what? You're right. It's happened long before I ever started dating. There's something I allow myself to put myself in bad situations. I try to fix people and rescue people and help people. I don't know what it is. And then you get into their childhood. You're like, oh, ding, ding, ding. There we go. It all makes sense now. You know, if you're one of those people that self-sabotages, you screw things up and you build them up and you break it down again. You've done it more than twice. You really think it's about what you're doing or it's about who you are? If you're those people that keep starting things but don't finish them, it's not about the things you're starting. It's about the person that's not finishing them. So you got to recognize these patterns and break through them. Very important. Yes, that's what I was saying right there. Sometimes I need outside help to see my shortcomings, and that's the outside perspective. So number 8, after you recognize your patterns, you got to create a plan for a comeback. This is the good stuff. So now you've accepted, you owned it, you took responsibility, you process your feelings, you recognize your patterns. What you going to do with it? How are you going to go from where you are right now, from the fighter that's on the ground, just got knocked out, got the wind knocked out of their guts. The world is spinning. They feel like they're dazed and confused and everything's dark. And how are you going to get from that to the moment that you raise your hands in victory? I'm raising my hands. You can't see them. Raise your hands in victory. Raise your hands in victory and have that comeback. How are you going to go from there to there? Because if you have a plan or a goal, right? If you have a goal without a plan, what's it called? A wish. Okay? A goal, the goal of a comeback, without a plan of how you want to get there is called a wish. So where have I heard things like wishes? Birthdays. Close your eyes, make a wish, blow on the candle. How many of those damn wishes have ever come true in your life? Go back to the time you were little, by the way. Those really cute, innocent wishes we used to have. How many of those have ever come true? Don't worry. I'll wait. I learned that from Cat Williams, one of my favorite stand-up comedians. Don't worry. I'll wait. If you're being true to yourself, to thine own self be true, you'll quickly realize that not many of your wishes really come true. So if you have a wish to make a comeback, if that's your goal, you better have a freaking plan how you're going to get there. And a plan is not just something. And see, there you go. Jim's just rooting you guys on because he knows what it is. Plans can take a long time to accomplish. Stay with it. You know, they do. They take a long time to accomplish. You got to stay with it. So because it takes a long time to accomplish, there's another bullet point here that's next. And that's to celebrate the small wins. You know, sometimes we think that to go from where I want to where I want to be, there's nothing in between. But God, there's so many milestones. As soon as someone says, hey, you look a little bit better today, take it, celebrate it. Someone says, hey, I trust you a little bit more. I'm a little bit more comfortable around you. Hey, you know what? Something about you is different. Whenever people acknowledge those things and see them, because here's the reality, people around you are going to see it way sooner than you see it. Way sooner, because they got this different perspective. You all have that guilt and shame inside. So allow them to kind of and celebrate these things. Celebrate the little milestones in life. If you're working out and you drop a pant size or you see a new definition in your arm, like celebrate it. Celebrate it. Because if you don't, and as soon as life comes in and starts getting overwhelming, you're going to feel like you're not making any progress. You know, one of the things that we do at Buckeye Recovery Network is intensive outpatient for substance abuse and mental health. We have, 30, 40 program participants. And sometimes someone will say, I feel like I'm just not making any progress in life. I feel like I'm stuck, I'm stagnated. I'm like, all right, that's a fair observation, but can you please tell me what your life was like prior to coming to recovery? And they're like, well, those days were bad. I could barely get out of bed. I was very suicidal. I was actively doing self-harm. I was riddled with anxiety and depression. I was using substances daily to survive. I was isolating. I was playing 12 hours of video games. I was not getting out of my room. I was fired from my job. My spouse said they're going to divorce me. I'm like, ooh. And are any of those things going on right now? Like, oh, thank God none of those are. It's like, all right, well, if you can't see the progress, then how are you ever going to go to the next step? Because here's the beauty of life and the possibility of human transformation. And the reason why I do this is because today is a new day. And 6 months from now, you're going to get to look back at today. And if somebody asks you, what progress in life have you made? You better have a freaking good answer. You better have ways and means in which you have made progress from this moment 6 months from now. Because if you don't, it's nobody's fault but you. Don't tell me all the things that are going to happen in the next 6 months are somebody else's fault. Because if they are, you're not living this thing called life the way you need to live it. If you're a child, it's okay. But if you're a grown adult and you think you have no control over the next 6 months of your life or the next year of your life, you miss the message of transformation. Because you do if you choose to access it. Number 11, you got to make sure that you reflect and move forward. Reflection is small. I mean, these are two contrary things. Reflection is kind of looking backwards. Moving forward is moving forward. So how can you reflect and move forwards? Because sometimes you got to look back to move forward. There's different ways to do it. I personally am a journal person, didn't bring it for this talk or anything like that, but this is called it's a mindset journal. And for example, it starts off, you do a little self-assessment. It's a check-in, 1 to 10, how you feel and why. The priority of the day, what are some things in the day you want to tackle and get done, different levels. A few gratitude things. What are you grateful for? What's a win for the day? So at nighttime, what did you win today? What were some wins? Small wins. See, it's in here. Really good stuff. And I actually do write it, just so you guys know. And then point of tension, stress, or anxiety. I like that part because it lets me process kind of like what was tough today. And then it's got like a journal entry. So, I practice what I preach. Reflect, reflect, reflect. It's a powerful way to live life. And lastly, make an epic comeback. If you do the things that we outlined today in our talk, you have the ability to transform your life and go from any real or perceived setback to a freaking epic comeback. And I cannot wait to see you standing above all of those challenges and problems and perceived situations in life that you thought you couldn't overcome, realizing who you are and the power that you actually possess, inspiring and motivating other people who have experienced the same damn thing to believe they can do it too, and making this world a better place. Because if that's not what we're doing here, then what the hell are we? All that being said, I love and appreciate you. You know I'm off the pickleball. I'll see you back same time, same next week. Bye, everyone.